You're listening to The Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
Sports Studios in Los Angeles. Here's Eddie Garcia.
News from the NFL, where the Miami Dolphins place quarterback Tua Tagovailoa on injured reserve, meaning he'll miss at least the next 4 games as he recovers from a concussion. In baseball, the Mets roll over the Nationals 10-1, while the Braves lose to the Reds 6-5. So Atlanta is now 2 games back of both the Mets and Diamondbacks for the last wildcard spot in the National League. Twins over the Guardians 4-1. Tigers beat the Royals 3-1 in 10 innings. Detroit remains a game and a half back of Minnesota for the final wildcard spot in the American League. Cleveland remains 5 games up on Kansas City for first in the AL Central. Astros get by the Padres 4-3 in 10 innings. San Diego still 3.5 back of LA for first in the NLS, with the Dodgers losing to the Marlins 11-9. Yankees roll over the Mariners 11-2. Seattle's 4.5 games back in the AL wildcard race, 5 games back of Houston in the AL West race. Orioles were shut up by the Giants 10-0. Baltimore drops 4 games back of the Yankees in the AL East. Battle of division leaders, Phillies over the Brewers 5-1.
Alabama 1st and 10 on the 12. Again, Houston. He's got a hole. He's over. Alabama touchdown.
I'm just wondering if your listeners know how good a football player you were. I can still see you playing that fullback, knocking those players out of the way. And I believe I could have run behind you.
Martin, I can remember when we came to summer and you were playing fullback up there, and I saw you in the weight room and watched you work out in the weight room. If you could pick up, you were strong enough to pick up the whole weight room. I wanted to pick it, and our running back coach didn't take the pass. biggest mistake we ever made.
The Martin Houston Show with national championship winning fullback Martin Houston, giving you 1 hour of intense, hard-hitting analysis from an insider's perspective. It's time for the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. We're live, local, and ready to get things rolling. We're powered by Box Eye Care. Box Eye Care. Daniel Box, OD, 205-342-0660. Box Eye Care. You can find them online at boxeyecare.com. Or you can get them by driving down to 69 South, 5003 Oscar Baxter Drive. They'll take care of you and all your vision needs. All you need to do is walk in and sit down, and they'll get you in and out, in most cases, within an hour with their new in-house lab and great inventory. You're going to get great prices, competitive prices, and get the same great service you've come to know and respect. I want to invite you to get in on the conversation on the Empowerment Strategies and Solutions hotline, 205-342-9904, 205-342-9904. That is the Empowerment Strategies and Solutions hotline. So it's open for business, and you can always, those of you who join on the live stream chat, always join the conversation and give us your thoughts, your comments, and your interactions. It's D-Day today, and I'll tell you what that means in just a moment. But before we do that, I want to remind you that this is a day that the Lord has made. So let's rejoice and be glad in it. Take some time today to notice someone, love someone, serve someone, be the difference you want to see in the world today. So great show lined up for you. Good morning, X. How you doing, sir?
Good morning. Doing well. How are you?
Good. We're going to do a little different, something that we don't normally do. Just dedicate the entire show to defense today. I don't think we talk enough about defense, and Coach Womack gives you so much volume to communicate about. So we'll take some time and and his opening comments were like 4 minutes and something. So we won't listen to it in its entirety, but we'll open and play that some and like pull out some talking points. It may end up being like we may end up doing defense for 2 or 3 days, but since it's open week, we were planning to do offense on tomorrow, but if we don't get it to all in today, we'll just kick it to tomorrow. But great comments there. In his opening comments, we'll talk about the Bama Standard. He talked about the Bama Standard. That's the first time I'd heard him break that down. Talk about his approach to bye week, which is something that we had planned to talk about as a whole. What do you try to get out of bye week? He talks about that. He talks about productivity. He talks about LT's dominance, LT's fit. He talked about coaches get what they emphasize. He talked about self-scouting and being prepared for the SEC. X, we've asked the question, is it time to open up the offensive playbook? He even talks about the fact that we've not opened up our defensive playbook. If that doesn't get you excited, Bama, if there's more to this defense than what we've seen, and he says that he actually, well, I'll let you know what he said. But anyway, X, lots to get to. So what's on your mind before we get into that?
Yeah, I mean, the defense, and Coach Womack talking about the defense, the Bama Standard on that side, you know, I would say through 3 games, this defense is doing a pretty good job living up to it. It is, 0, 16, and 10. So 26 points through 3 games. That's under 9 points a game. That's the Bama Standard. And that's something that we feel like the defense had kind of gotten away from over the last few years up under Coach Saban, and not really Coach Saban, but the defensive coordinators left a lot to be desired. And I think we're on track to getting back to it. We're getting after the quarterback. We talk LT Overton, these pass rushers. You know, Q Robinson reminds me of the Tim Williams role back on that dominant defense. Come in and just get after the quarterback. They talked about it Saturday, Deontay Lawson and his ability to be the best linebacker since Reuben Foster. I think this team is on track to living up to that Bama Standard.
Yeah. Anything from what the topics there that just kind of jump out that you want to start with, or you kind of went through that entire list there? Anything there? Because hearing him say
LT Overton.
Let's see.
LT Overton.
Let's
LT Overton and what he's been.
His dominance. We'll get that. And while we're getting that pulled up, let's work J-Rob in real quick. J-Rob, you're in with Martin and Xavier on the Empowerment Strategy Solutions Hotline. What's on your mind, sir?
Good morning, gentlemen. I hope you're doing good today.
Doing well.
Yes, sir.
All right. I'm pretty pleased with our performance Saturday. I think we started off a little bit slow, but we did finish strong. I love the score at the end of the half and score again coming out the gate. That's a good strategy. I think Coach DeBoer cracked open his toolbox a little bit there at the end of the first half. And then, like you said, your question, I think we need to start cracking open the playbook a little bit and, use what we have to use. I don't say we have to show everybody everything in the kitchen sink. I think that sometimes you use what you got to use. Well,
when you'll hear it later, J-Rob, he actually says that they've put in more than we've seen. But they've done what we thought. They saw that they didn't need it, so they didn't show it. So it's not that. And he also references his dad, and so we'll play that audio in a little bit. In their approach to rolling out defense. In other words, he pretty much is saying they save things for certain opponents. based on game plan. All right. Thanks, J-Rob. That good stuff there.
Take care. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. All right, X, here's what Coach had to say. Coach Womack had to say when asked about LT. There was two questions about LT. This is the first one asking about LT's dominance on Saturday.
Yeah, I think when you go back and you watch the tape, it's impressive to see how dominant LT was in that game. He continues to show up. He's a tremendous on-body rusher, as I've talked about, first and second down transition pass rush. Does a really great job in that regard. Very physical at the point of attack. There was a play where they tried to run a power concept when they were kind of backed up in their territory, and they ran power at him, and he really was dominating on two different blocks. He at the point of attack off of a tight end, and then somebody coming back across to be able to kick him out, and he kind of knocks that guy out too, and then makes the play in the backfield. So he just continues to show up from a level of physicality. He plays with a tremendous high motor, and he is very efficient and effective in terms of what we're doing schematically right now. So very pleased with LT, and excited to see what he will continue to grow and produce in our defense.
X?
That's what you want to hear, because what LT's doing as his defense is continuing to grow and to come into fruition with everything that they're saying they're putting in. LT's dominating in the basics of it. And I think the more exotic is maybe the right word this defense gets, the more you'll see guys like LT and some of these other situational guys take control of the game.
Yeah, and we'll get to the second coming of LT, because he actually talks about a couple of – he goes a little deeper on what he means by on-body pass rush. But I thought it was interesting that he said that if you missed it, LT made 3 plays in that one play that he was describing when they were going to try to it sounds like they were going to try to run some type of trap play or kick out a block on LT where the tight end is supposed to kind of influence him, not really take him on, influence him so that he's watching the tight end, and then whoever was pulling, whether it was a guard, tackle, backside tight end, or running back, it could have been any of those. I'm not familiar with the play, to kick him out, X. And LT so dominated the tight end that when the tight end released, he was looking inside and saw the guy that was coming to kick him out, dominated him. And because he dominated that block, the running back had nowhere to go. The goal was to kick him out, set him up outside, kick him out further, and the running back cut up inside, and LT prevented all of that because of that play. So you don't really realize that. Instead of him getting kicked out and all that, he ends up not only playing the defense the right way, he ends up making the tackle versus just turning it back into the other guys to make the tackle. So that's impressive. And when we come back from the other side, X, we're going to come out to break with this LT's fit in the NFL, and then I'll let you respond from there. Thanks for listening to the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. We appreciate your support each and every day. I want to thank the fine folks over at North River Timber Company, timber harvesting, appraisals, and land management. Courtney White and his team have been doing it the right way down in West Alabama, 4 counties and growing. Courtney White, 11 years as a registered forester, 205-242-5127, or Chase Pearson, 205-799-0665. Once again, that number is 242-5127. Courtney White, NorthRiverCO@gmail.com. And Courtney White says, if you have land, it's like having money in the bank, and they want the opportunity to help you maximize your investment. North River Timber Company, LLC.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Welcome to the start of your hump day, and it's smooth. On 2059 eastbound between Joe Malisham and McFarland Boulevard, you got the long-term road construction. Absolutely no delays. It also looks good on McFarland.
If it makes sense for your business.
Go to townsquarelocal.com for a free demo of the Townsquare Business Management Platform. Visit townsquarelocal.com. That's townsquarelocal.com.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partly to mostly sunny today, the high 86 degrees. Mostly clear tonight, the low 65. Tomorrow, sunny with a high at 89. Friday and Saturday, hot and dry. Lots of sunshine both days with highs very close to 90. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
It's time for the Martin Houston Show. With the same hard-hitting, no-nonsense approach in which he played the game, Martin will take you inside the locker room, down on the field, and across the goal line with his in-depth analysis.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier, powered by Box Eye Care. For those of you who are tuned in on the video, you can see that I've gotten a Legacy cap on, sporting the new Legacy gear. You can see it and get it right there. All you have to do is click the QR code. Or if you're on the radio airwaves, you can go to athletesthread.com/collections/Martin-Houston. Get your Legacy gear today. Cap looks better in person than it did even on the video. So get your Alabama swag today, Alabama Legacy collection via Martin Houston. Once again, click the QR code or visit athletesthread.com/collections/Martin-Houston. Here's that audio we promised you regarding LT Overton and his fit, and maybe a little more definition of exactly what he's doing in that position.
The field defensive end is a very critical position, for us. When you play a 3-4 nickel 4-2-5 scheme, you really runs to the field. It's important that you have somebody that is a presence, right, when they want to build a three-man surface, meaning that they want to have a tight end blocking scheme to the field side, being able to, really dominate those one-on-one matchups on a tight end to make it hard to run in that C-B gap area to the field as well. And then their ability to transition pass rush, right? You have to have guys that are physical enough in the run, but on first and second down, before we can get maybe another a rush personnel group out there on the field that can transition pass rush. And that's why I talk about LT being such a great on-body rusher. He does a really great job of transitioning from a run fit to a pass responsibility. I don't know if you saw how I did that right there, but doesn't look as good as LT. But just to be able to transition pass rush and his ability to create havoc in the backfield on first and second down, I think is really important for us as a defense structurally. But even when you look at teams in the NFL, it's really the same matchup. And there's a fine line of playing the run fit and then stopping the run on the way to the pass. And I think we're doing a really good job with both LT and Jamarian Latham from that field bandit position.
Woo, X.
Man, the way Coach Womack breaks things down, you really got to love it. And I love this because this is not something we got to see over the last 17 years. We're getting to hear, the coordinators talk about things in season as they're going on, and he's able to break it down for you, put it in layman's terms for everybody to understand. And talking about that, when he's talking about the own body, for those who aren't watching it on the stream, is the hand placement where you're locking up to throw a guy to make a run stop, but then you're able to go into that swim move, that bull rush, a spin, whatever, to get to the quarterback. And LT is amazing at that. And we've been able to see that throughout a couple games. And it's just fun. I love this aspect of it up under Coach DeBoer here. And the defensive coordinator, and of course we'll get to hear Nick Sheridan as well talk about things in season and their approaches to it and how that shapes this defense as we go week to week.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you, what's his name is a teacher. This dude is a flat-out teacher, X, in terms of what he's doing. And so, to me, I'll give you all an even more layman's term. LT is versatile. LT could play back in the 92 defense because what separated Copeland and Curry that made them great was that we never had to substitute them. You could go fast all you want. It didn't matter. You know, they were going to be in the nation at their position. They were going to be top 3 against rushing the passer, and they were going to be top 3 against the run. And one time, if you went to Copeland's side on a pass play, then you had to watch Curry from the backside because he was a dominant pass rusher. If you ran the ball, tried to run it, Curry, he could still stop the run. I mean, so that's what LT brings to the table. And I like the fact that he threw Latham in there as well. And then the interior guys, man, I think this defense could line up and run a 4-4. I mean, a 4 true down linemen, a 4-3, true 4-3. I think you could put Latham at, defensive end and LT at defensive end, and then you could have Smith and Keenan and Otis, and I mean just Smith. All of these dudes, man. This defensive line is stacked, X.
Without a doubt, and because of the depth of them, as you said, depending on what you wanted to do on any given down, you have a group of guys that can be fresh coming in to do it, and that's what we've seen. And I think that's as Bam Bam. I'm glad that Bam Bam actually brought it as I'm looking up, saying he hopes Justice Terry, 5-star defensive lineman, is coming to Tuscaloosa next week, so he'll see how we're using our defensive line. And that's exactly where I was getting ready to go with it. Man, this versatility, that's going to open the door for some of these big recruits. Guys, you got to understand, up under Coach Saban, we didn't get a ton of 5-star defensive ends. We got a ton of 5-star defensive tackles. Jonathan Allen, guys, and Jonathan Allen was actually an outside linebacker coming out of high school. But those 5-star defensive, Deron Payne, those guys were defensive tackles, 5 stars. This defense is going to bring 5-star defensive ends to this program. The Chase Youngs, the Nick Bosa's.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But it's going to bring those type of guys that we've been missing out. The guys that you see at Georgia, Mikael Williams. You'll see those guys starting to come to Alabama up under this defense.
Could you see Jonathan Allen playing the role that LT is playing?
100%.
Oh, my goodness. That dude would be – well, he was unblockable anyway. but hey, listen, let's hit a couple of comments. First of all, let me give a shout out to Tim Coggins. He I'm not sure if he was on yesterday or not, but congratulations, Tim. You won the Alabama Legacy score prediction contest. So kudos to you, man. Appreciate you. You got the score exactly right, 42-10. So kudos to Tim Coggins, who's listening and said he loved the new look on defense, still concerned with receivers running free at times. Ditto. Was really impressed with the speed of the third-string D-line players this past weekend. And he said you listen to Kane Womack break down the game and wonder how any defensive player wouldn't jump at the chance to be developed by him. So detailed. And you just imagine what X, back to you, if what he would – if we're getting this level of detail in a press conference, what's the level of coaching and teaching that's happening on the field?
Man, it's unreal. When you hear a coach be able to break things down to you whether you know the game at a high level, or you know the game, or you're just learning it, and you can figure out what he's talking about when you go back and watch the game, or you'll watch the next game, you'll see these little intricate details that he talks about. If he's doing that with us, the fans, the way he breaks things down to his players and say, hey, it's so detailed. It's, hey, this is where your hands need to be. This is where your eyes need to be. This is how your feet might need even to be set in certain situations. This detail is, without a doubt, Kirby Smart, as far as like me really watching Alabama football, has been the best defensive coordinator that Alabama has had. That I can remember. I'm not old enough to remember the 92 team. And
no. I wasn't saying that. I would take Jeremy over as a defense coordinator.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Jeremy was a much better teacher than Kirby. That's why when Jeremy left, go back and watch X. What happened to Alabama's defensive backfield when Jeremy left? Go back and watch it. We struggled. We became known.
You're talking about when Jeremy went to Florida State?
Yep. We became known as third and Kirby. Because you could beat our defensive backs. Kirby was a mastermind, but I think Jeremy, as a defensive coordinator, that dude is Womack. Him and Womack are the same person.
No.
I think you're looking.
I hadn't thought about it like that.
Jeremy, this is what I mean by this, X. I believe that if you had the opportunity to hear Kirby at the podium and Jeremy at the podium, you would hear Jeremy would sound like
Womack.
Because he was known as a teacher. Kirby was good, and he knew Saban's system and could execute it. But I think that who was it that probably influenced? What's the kid's name up in Oregon, and the kid that's at Georgia now? The two defensive coordinators and the head coach. They learned a lot of what they learned, I think, through Jeremy's coaching and teaching. I may be wrong. But Kirby, this is tit for tat at X. I mean, both of those dudes were awesome. I just think that Jeremy was a better teacher. He could teach Saban's system of defensive back coverage better than any coach that Saban had. Let me say it that way.
Okay. Yeah, and I can see that. I mean, he was a DB coach. That was his bread and butter,
right?
Starting off with, and so, but I just love. But my point was, I think Womack's going to be in that conversation, not up under Saban, of course, but he's in that conversation as a defensive coordinator that Pruitt and Kirby were in here at Alabama. I don't know how long we keep Womack. He was already a head coach when he decided to come back here. But, man, if you're an Alabama fan, 100% enjoy this time that we do have.
Oh, I mean, if this trend continues, X, there'll be people knocking on his door at the end of this year.
Will him and LCB are one and done?
They both could be. Let's get a break here. Hey, with the wealth of experience in both business and leadership, I bring a unique perspective to the world of real estate. As a former chief growth officer of a mortgage-producing financial institution, I have a deep understanding of financial structures and a keen insight into goals and challenges of you as a home buyer. I combine this expertise with the work ethic and drive home during my time as a two-time SEC champion and national champion at the University of Alabama. And with that degree in marketing, I'm able to take those skill sets, that work ethic, and make a difference in your home buying experience. So I partnered with Realty One Group to offer a full service real estate business. That is, without a doubt, what you need if you're in the market in Alabama with an emphasis in West Alabama. I'll approach cutting-edge marketing technologies with old-fashioned commitment to relational service. if you're looking for a home, I should be the choice for you. If you're looking for a trusted real estate partner, email mhoustonbankingandrealestate@gmail.com, mhoustonbankingandrealestate@gmail.com, or call 205-826-1381.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Welcome to the start of your hump day, and it's smooth. On 2059 eastbound between Jill Melisham and McFarland Boulevard, you got the long-term road construction. Absolutely no delays. It also looks good on McFarland.
Within 30 miles. And if they don't have what you need, they'll get it. Cypress Supply, 2036 62nd Avenue, Tuscaloosa. Cypress-supply.com.
The sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team. The Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier, powered by Box Eye Care. Box Eye Care. And we want to invite you to go check those guys out. We're continuing our defensive conversation. And there's a guy. This is a pretty cool stat. I'll let you hear it here. Then hear Coach Womack. I'm sorry. Actually, I don't have the stat part included in the audio. But this particular player is averaging a sack every 10 snaps. So just let that sink in.
Yeah, that's a stat right there, to be able to create production for our defense and to be able to create some havoc. Q has really stepped up in some big moments in games. I think people that can take the ball away from a defensive standpoint, if you look at anybody in major college football, you look at anybody in the NFL, we had Vance Joseph came in and spoke to in our coaching clinic back in the springtime, and we brought him in and talked to him. They put such a premium and value within their organization on defensive players that can take the ball away, right? And so for him to be able to do that at the level that he's done over the first 3 games is certainly impressive. His level of commitment to this team, to his teammates, to working for the Standard every single day. It's great to see people that do things at such a high level and meet the standard day in and day out at practice be rewarded on game day. So very proud of him.
Jump over the right side.
And you have Quay Russaw, who he's talking about with the sack every 10 snaps, which is absolutely insane. To me, that says, get him on the field a little bit more. Get him out there going after the quarterback a little bit more, because he has been an absolute unbelievable pass rusher. Like I said, he's that Tim Williams of this defense. He's not going to be out there every snap, but when it's time to get after the quarterback, he's back there. And that's just the sacks. That's not talking about the pressures, getting in the quarterback's face, stopping them from being able to get the ball off. Down to the wide receivers in correct ways, man. And and I think, we look at the injury that Quay Russaw suffered on Saturday, and it doesn't seem to be as bad as it looked. They're sprained, so he might be out a couple weeks. But when we all watched it, I thought something was torn in that knee. You did as well, because we were texting, and you said that looked really bad. But I think you'll see Quay get out there a little bit more, and you'll see Quay get an opportunity to make
Q. You keep saying Quay.
Q will get out there a little bit more, and you'll see him be able to wreak more havoc in that backfield.
Yeah, and what's good for Q is Q's an Alabama kid, Birmingham kid who stayed, and you see that he has ability. Shame on these other coaches for that guy not getting on the field some more. We've think about this. When we go to the third down, he is the middle linebacker at times. You telling me that these prior coaching staff did either this coaching staff X has done an unbelievable job of getting him ready to play, or shame on the prior coaches for not getting this guy out there in situations? I mean,
100%.
I mean, this guy, when he comes off the ball, I have to say this carefully, but his first step looks as good as anybody we've had in rushing the passer in a while. I mean, and I'm talking about Will Anderson. I'm talking about Will Anderson was an unbelievable pass rusher. I don't know if he had a first step like Q. And Coach Mack Coach Womack recognizing him paying the price and now being rewarded, I think pays huge dividends as well, X.
Without a doubt, when you're looking at what he's done, you're talking about a fifth-year senior, a guy that could have been in the portal, a guy that could have been playing anywhere else probably 2 years ago. You know, he comes in with Will. Then the next year, he comes in with Will and Drew Sanders. Sanders transfers out. You're like, okay, he's going to get a little bit. But then you got Dallas Turner. Dallas Turner comes and shows out. Then it's like, okay, well, and that outside linebacker class in 2020, that was Drew Sanders, Will Anderson, Chris Braswell, and Quay Russaw. That is an insane outside edge rush passing class.
Hugh Robinson.
Hugh Robinson. Hugh.
You keep saying Quay.
Quay. Hugh and Quay. Hugh.
Is some of my 54-year-old rubbing off on you?
I think so. Hugh Robinson. That is an insane edge rushing class. And the fact that Hugh, the Alabama kid out of that group, stayed, worked his butt off, and now he's getting an opportunity to be an absolute huge piece of this defense in a transition year. Man, I'm glad to see that he put in the work and has stayed and is reaping the benefits of it.
Could he be the game changer for next Saturday? I mean, could he be the guy that moves what's his name off his spot enough that it's a difference maker for Alabama versus Georgia?
Oh yes, and him being on the field more this go around now with Quay being out, Hugh is going to have a chance to make a lot of plays. But, of course, we want to see Quay get back healthy and get back right. But
I think Quay could possibly be ready, but the question becomes, is that sort of like we did with Pritchett, if because he's going to be behind on reps. And
right.
What's the name talks about his approach to bye week. So he's going to be a little bit behind unless he gets to start practicing today or in the next day or so.
If Quay's able to play, I don't want to. If he's 80%, I think he gets out there some. But if he's below that, man, don't risk it unless it's truly situational. I think you go with the guys that are healthy and are going to be able to get after the quarterback and get after the running backs in the run game, because a lot of Quay's game is power, and that comes from your lower body. Your knees and your ankles, and that's where he's got a sprain in both. So I wouldn't risk it if I didn't have to.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I mean, if he's able to play, you play him, but I think you start off with, can a guy like Q, Colt, can they handle it? And if they can, then you don't use Quay. You look long term. If they're able to hold their own against the rush, because I think definitely against the run, I think the pass rush they're going to be fine. So that's my thoughts there.
Yeah, and do you think? Okay, so you have Malachi Shy. He's in the protocol, potential concussion. He should be good to go, but we know how people are about concussions these days and wanting to keep him safe and healthy for the entire season. who's the guy that takes over his role as they're getting ready until he is back?
I think you probably look at maybe Mac or Georgia's offense isn't as 5 wide and spread out. Yeah, so I think Red Morgan can probably run with their tight ends. I just don't want Red Morgan being stuck on a wide receiver. He concerns me, like I said, with the deep ball, and I think Beck will hit those passes. So I think there'll be some combination of Mac. If they have to do some moving around, even if they have to have Keon drop down to Malachi,
See, that's where I was going. I would go Malachi. I mean, Keon moving to Malachi's spot and having Mac probably over the top.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. In Mac or one of the other guys, one of the other safeties. I think all these safeties can
interchangeable.
Yeah, can play that spot. And I think that Sabb is such a QB and so savvy and ball savvy that you don't want to move him if you don't have to. But, it may be sort of like what we saw against South Florida. You kind of try to get the best guys out there based on what the other team does.
Yeah, you hate to see injuries going into the biggest game of the season so far, but at least we have the bye week to get a little healthy before you go into this type of game. But, man, this defense, we hadn't even talked about the linebackers yet in this defense. and you bring up, before we do that, I guess before we go to break, I want to hit the other young. We've talked about the young DBs. Is a Zaven Brown, is a Red Morgan, are they going to be ready for this Georgia offense, which isn't as wide open necessarily as some of the teams we've played, but this is the best quarterback we've played by a big margin. This is a offense that we've seen that can be very precise with their passing game with Carson Beck. And they, even though it's not spread out, they have Oscar Delp at tight end. They've got Lovett at wide receiver. They've got Dylan Bale. They've got a lot of speed guys, and we've seen these young DBs get burnt several times through the course of the first few games.
I think it's been the safeties for the most part. As far as I did see Jackson when they did the double up on him get burnt once. And so you have to be, but Georgia doesn't go fast like that. And I don't think Georgia's defense creates the mismatches like the Tennessees and the South Floridas of the world. So I'm not worried about this team against these young DBs against the run, the pass, but I don't know. I think the complexity of the pass helps, or lack of complexity sometimes helps our defensive backs X. And we'll have to keep the conversation rolling on tomorrow on the defense, because I definitely want to get to the defensive standard that he talked about: effort and finish, hard shoulder tackles, violent hands, and creating takeaways. But since we got to get to a break here, we'll just kick the defensive conversation to tomorrow. You're going to hear promo running throughout the day that says offense. But, hey, listen, we just having a conversation around the table, and we invite you to get there and sit down and take a seat and join it with us. So we won't just change conversations because a clock runs out. So join us tomorrow as we talk defense again. Continue to hear from Coach Womack. Coming back on the other side, we'll add Scotty Hollins, Executive Director, Blueprint Ministries, to the conversation. It'll be the Harvest Church 2-minute warning.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Wednesday morning. The Tuscaloosa City Council unanimously passed $300 million in FY25 operating budgets at last night's council meeting. Mayor Walt Maddox congratulated the council and the city staff for work on the budget since March. Maddox pointed out the budgets are balanced and passed on time. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news, sports, and weather coverage. It's free throughout the day. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. We got a nice steady little flow for this Hump Day Wednesday. Not seeing a lot of delays, but you are starting to kick up some volume on Skyland Boulevard. This is mostly in the eastbound direction between Cypress Creek and Hargrove Avenue. Otherwise, traffic looks
piece for your engagement, anniversary, or birthday. Come experience the difference of shopping local. Visit Hudson Pool Fine Jewelers, downtown Tuscaloosa, or at hudsonpool.com.
Interact with the Martin Houston Show by calling us at 205-342-9904 or tuning into the Martin Houston Show on Facebook.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier, powered by Box Eye Care. BoxEyeCare.com. It's now time for the Harvest Church 2-minute warning, where we love God, love people. Let's welcome in Scotty Hollins, Executive Director, Blueprint Ministries. Good morning, Scotty. How you doing, sir?
Good morning, Martin. I'm doing well. Always excited to join you on Wednesday mornings.
All right, man. I toss it to you to encourage us how we can incorporate our faith into the boardroom, the classroom, or our chosen field of play.
All right, man. Hey, we're going to continue with our series, Fundamentals That Build Firm Foundations. Okay, we're talking about the fundamentals that build firm foundations, and we've looked at, this could really apply in any area of life, but we're talking specifically spiritually, and we're talking about what are some spiritual fundamentals, some spiritual disciplines, some great habits that will build some firm foundations in your life. And so we are still talking about God's word. We've looked at Romans 12:2. Don't be conformed to the pattern of this world any longer, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. We looked at that passage. Last week we looked at Joshua 1:8, and it says, meditate on God's word day and night so that you be careful to do everything written in it. You see the connection between what you think and what you do? Meditate on his word day and night so that you be careful to do everything written in it. Then you'll be prosperous and successful in all you do. We looked at 3 components. Competence. We need to know how to spend time in the word. Conviction. We need to feel like we really need to spend time in the word. And then consistency. We need to be like Nike and just do it, right? We need to spend time in the word on a consistent basis. So this week, I want to take it a step further. Again, we're staying on this fundamental, spending time in the word. Again, I promise you, man, if you build this fundamental, this becomes a fundamental in your life, something, a spiritual discipline, a habit that you apply and that you embrace, it will develop you and it will shape you and it will build a firm foundation in your life. Listen, here's the verse this week. We're looking at James 1:22-25, and we're looking at verse 25. It says, but the one who looks intently into the perfect law of freedom and perseveres in it and is not forgetful, but one who does good works, this person will be blessed in what he does. Again, here's what I want you to hear. It says, but the one who looks intently into the perfect law of freedom and perseveres in it and is not a forgetful hearer, but one who does good works, so basically does what he knows the word is telling him to do. He says, this person will be blessed in what he does. And so today I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about how can we look intently into the perfect law that gives freedom. As he's talking about this perfect law that gives freedom, he's talking about God's word. And so the question is, how do we look intently into the perfect law? And I think looking intently is the first challenge, but then he's saying, but then after you look intently, you need to apply what you're learning. All right. So, and we need to embrace that. Well, looking intently, I think, has to do with just kind of coming to the Bible with a plan. And so we've been talking about competence. We've talked about conviction, and we're talking about consistency. Competence is what do I do? Conviction is why should I do it? Or do I need to do it? And consistency is actually just doing it. So today I'm going to give you a little a plan. So a way to look intently into the perfect law that gives freedom. Okay? And so if you got a pen and paper, I hope you're not driving. I want to give you 5 questions to ask of the scriptures when you're trying to say, you know what, I want to look at this passage of scripture. And I would say take small chunks. Don't. I'm talking a verse or 2. Take small chunks. Here's 5 questions to ask. First, you ask, is there a sin for me to avoid? As I look at this passage, I'm looking intently. I don't want to just read it and gloss over it. No, is there a sin for me to avoid? And if there is, you put it down. If there's not, you move on to the next one. The P is there a promise for me to claim? In this passage of scripture, is there a promise that God's given me that applies to me as a believer? Does it apply to me in some specific way? I'm looking intently, man. I'm not just looking at the verse. I'm asking questions. Is there sin to avoid? Is there a promise to claim? The E, is there an example to follow? Does this scripture give me an example? Is Paul speaking and he's giving me an example? The verse I read this morning was create me a clean heart, renew a right spirit within me. That's David after he had sinned with Bathsheba. That's a great example to follow, how he's coming back, he's repenting, and he said, Lord, create in me a clean heart. So does the passage you're studying give you an example to follow? Okay. The C is command to obey. In this passage, do you have a command to obey? Is there something where we're told, this isn't a suggestion, do this. This is a command, not just some good advice, but a command. The K is for knowledge about God. And that's, do we see anything about God in this passage? Hey, listen, you won't always have answers to all of these questions. Okay. You won't always in every passage is what I'm telling you, but you should always be able to find some knowledge about God because the whole Bible's about him. And then I actually added another one. There's an A. This is an acrostic that spells out spec. And I added an A. The A is application. So it's SPECA. The A is application. How will I apply this to my life? So S is sin to avoid. The P is promise to claim. The E is example to follow. The C is command to obey. The K is knowledge about God. And the A is application. How will I apply this to my life? Listen, let's look intently into the perfect law. Speaking of, that's God's word, into the perfect law that gives freedom. And then let's do our best to ask God to give us the strength to walk in obedience to it.
Yeah, that is so awesome. And, that to me, that applies to everything in your life, Scotty. You don't have time to get deep into it, but you need to be intentional. You don't accidentally find consistent success. It's an approach of intentionality. Tell them where they can find you and tell them about Austin.
Oh, yeah. You can go to Austin's Inspiring Messages on Instagram or Facebook. My son is sending out some really cool messages from God's Word. Love for you to follow his page. Instagram is Austin's Inspiring Messages. Same on Facebook.
Hey, I'm Martin Houston. That's Scotty Holland, the Executive Director of Blueprint Ministries. This has been the Martin Houston Show. Remember this, trust in the Lord always. Lean not your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. Thank you to Harvest Church for making this possible. We'll be back tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Roll Tide, everybody.